I have two questions here. The first one is about the controversy between the angel of the Lord and the Catholic
You read
apologists.
my
I have
mind
no
because
idea.
you read my mind because I got it pulled up
Oh,
perfectly.
really?
Yeah, I just pulled that up, so that's
That
exactly.
that was a crazy one.
Go ahead. This is
Yeah,
exactly you read. This is where I was going to go. So go ahead.
yeah. I have no idea. But correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the Catholic Church like have it as official doctrine that the angel is Jesus?
No,
Or am I wrong?
no,
No, it doesn't.
no,
Oh wow.
no. In
Oh wow.
fact,
I
so
didn't.
so now I want to talk a little bit about this just because Shamoon was messaging me about this question, and so we have to be. Can you mute just for a second because it's loud background. I promise
Oh, I'm
I'll try to
sorry.
make this quick. So Sam was messaging me about this other night because he was like, "Why is Athanasius referring in some of these passages about the angel of the Lord, calling it an angel?" The Orthodox Study Bible does the same thing in some of the passages too. So first of all, it's not wrong to point out that anytime the Lord of Sabaoth is present, his hosts and his angels are also present with him. Okay, so think back to Genesis, what is it, 16, where there's the meal with Abraham, and then the two angels with the Lord, right, are walking away, getting ready to go destroy Sodom. Um, excuse me, Genesis 18, excuse me. And so we know in Genesis 19:1 that when the angel of the Lord was present, there were two created angels also with him. Genesis 19:1, right? So it's explained a little bit later what's going on there. But if you look at, say, Ezekiel 1 to Ezekiel 10, the same principle is there, that this Lord of hosts, this glory of God, this Son of God, this one like the Son of God that's riding this angel chariot. The angels, the cherubim in that case, are there with him in his presence. So when he appears to Ezekiel, he is not without his angels, you see. This is why in the Theophany in Exodus, when he's on the mountain at Mount Sinai, Paul says in one place that the law was given through angels. But in other places, we know that Jesus himself identifies himself as the one there speaking face to face with Moses. Is this a contradiction? No. The Israelites were afraid of a face to face confrontation with Christ himself. They, in the text, say, "You, Moses, go up there and talk to him." So Paul's not contradicting, but the majority of the Israelites did not want a direct face to face confrontation with Jesus. And in 2 Corinthians 3, Paul makes it very clear that Moses went up on the mountain and saw Jesus face to face because it's the glory of Christ, as he says in that passage, that reflected onto the face of Moses. So when Moses came back down from the mountain, the Israelites couldn't look at Moses' face because he was deified. The uncreated light was shining out of the face of Moses. Paul calls this in 2 Corinthians 3 glorification. It's not postponed to the eschaton like Roman Catholics think. It's existing in Moses. Moses was transfigured and deified there. And Paul uses the allegory that just as the Jews did not want to go up on the mountain and their hearts were hardened and they had to put a veil over Moses' face, so likewise, as he says in Galatians, the Jews would not directly interact face to face with God. Moses was their representative. Paul is contrasting that situation to our situation where now it's not mediated by angels and only directly to Moses. All Christians have the direct experience potentiality like Moses had. That's the new thing of the New Testament. That's Moses being the image of the New Testament Christian, face to face meal with God. How did the elders of Israel go up on the mountain and have a meal with Michael? Gabriel? No, with the Lord. So this is actually providentially amazing, because if you guys recall, in the last few months, when Uniates and Roman Catholics and Thomists called in, I started shifting the debate and the argumentation with them to just going to the Theophanies and the dozens and dozens of examples in the Old Testament and pointing out that their Thomistic theology and Roman Catholic theology defaults typically, almost always, to not admitting that the angel of the Lord and the Theophanies are uncreated or real, because it goes against their divine simplicity dogma and their denial of God's ability for one hypostasis to self-limit kenosis, Philippians 2, in time and space. They just don't conceive of it. Now, how do I know that? Well, guess what? Not only have I read Aquinas on it, there's actually scholars who have helped us do this. Let me refresh it right here. So, if you recall, in the Muslim debates, we made quite a bit of use of, why is that crashing? I just had it pulled up. Benjamin Sommer's book, Bodies of God, okay? And this helpful man here has contrasted Aquinas' view in the Summa, and I'm going to show you the exact passages so that you can see that Thomas Aquinas does not believe. Oh my gosh, why is it taken down? So this paper is right here. I've been sharing it all over Twitter. I don't know why it's not there. It's called Aquinas and Sommer on God's Body. Let's try that. And this guy compares Aquinas' statement on the angel of the Lord with the Hebrew theophany model of Benjamin Sommer. Now, I'm not saying that Benjamin Sommer is a Christian. He's a rabbinic Jewish commentator. But he's admitting he's great, just like Siegel and all these other people with the two powers in heaven, and Schaeffer and Boyarin, because modern rabbinic theology is admitting a lot of the Christian principles and arguments. That's why it's useful. And the paper admits, why is this collapsed? I don't understand. Oh, maybe academia.edu it's down. Okay. Well, I'll give you guys the link because I don't think this is going away. It should be accessible later. Anyway, he cites in the Summa the very places where Aquinas says that the angel of the Lord has to be a vision or some kind of created phenomenon because, well, divine simplicity. It's not possible for one hypostasis or for God, who is absolute simplicity and who is a pure act, to be in time and space, changing spatial location, going over here, leaving, and doing this and that. Now, so see that this is why it's nuanced. So Athanasius can say at times that perhaps he thinks that it's the angel of the Lord in the furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, fine, it could be, but it also could be the Son of God as well, because anytime that the Son of God is present, also his Sabaoth, his hosts, are also present with him, as Ezekiel shows. Now, one last point before I know I've been rambling a long time, but I did also want to point out that in Jamie Aiken's article on this, he's actually making Muslim arguments. Can you believe this? This is how bad the Roman Catholic apologists are. So when Aiken is addressing this, he says, it's true that the angel of the Lord often seems to speak with the voice of the Lord. And this has led some in Protestant circles. So Jimmy Aiken is not even aware that the traditional Eastern patristic exegesis of the church fathers, like Justin Martyr against Trypho the Jew, says, no, this is Jesus. Jesus says it's Jesus. We've lectured through all of the theophanies in the Torah, all of them. It took about 3 hours, and I think I missed one Leviticus. You can go watch my video where we go through all of them. Outside of the Torah, into the historical books, it says in Judges, Yahweh turned his face to Gideon. Angels are not the face of Yahweh. The face of Yahweh is identified in Ezekiel 1 and 10 as the guy that's on the chariot throne, one like a son of man, who's also the glory of God, the face of God, the voice of God. It's Jesus. What does Jimmy Aiken say? Catholics have not gone for this, quote, speculation. Speculation? Have you ever heard me or Sam Shamoon debate Muslims and Jews? It's like the number one way to prove our position. The Old Testament's not Unitarian. But the Roman Catholics, because of their natural theology, because of their ignorance of all this stuff, Trent Horn doubling down, the Old Testament teaches a Unitarian deity. No, it doesn't. Trent Horn says the word triad is a anti-Trinitarian term. What? Your own Eastern Catholic Church uses it for the Trinity. What are you talking about? You didn't know that? You've never heard this? Do you even go to your Eastern Catholic services? A significant problem is the fact that the term angel is used to describe this being, and the pre-incarnate Christ is not an angel. Jimmy Akin doesn't know that the word angel is a generic term for messenger, the messenger of the covenant, which the minor prophets talk about. That's Jesus. In Exodus 3, the voice speaking out of the burning bush is the same angel in Exodus 23 who can remit sins and has the name of Yahweh in him. That's not a creature, Roman Catholics. All of this is demonstrating that Roman Catholics and their insane commitments to stupid positions are on their way to being Muslims. They're almost there. James White, too, by the way. Because the angel of the Lord is not the Son of God. I mean, has this guy never heard any debates that me or Sam Shamoon have done with Muslims? I mean, remember when I debated Trent, I said, Trent, how are you going to debate with a Muslim when you're sacrificing one of your best arguments against Muslims or against a Jew? Did you guys hear Sam Shamoon's debate with the Orthodox rabbi kid? He demolished him. How? By this. He demolished that young Jewish guy from Britain who knows Hebrew. I was trying to argue the Hebrew, and Sam demolished him. It's an amazing debate. I highly recommend it. Guess what? It's the same debate with the Muslims.
And that's not exactly a modern thing. That's all over patristics, because
Yes.
patristics are Christocentric, and they're debating originally Jews as well. So
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
it's not a fringe, weird position, theologumenal stuff. No, church fathers go all the time through the Old Testament and say, "Hey, that's Christ."
Now, other people commented on this. Some other commentators have done a response, and the Thomas Aquinas mentions that there's traces of the Trinity in the Old Testament. This is not talking about the Catholic idea of traces of the Trinity in the Old Testament. This is specifically about theophanies in time and space, particularly the angel of the Lord. And it's not always just a theophany of a body who is wrestling. What does it say in Genesis 32? It says at the end that when he struck his hip, well, it says that Jacob saw the ladder of God, right, ascending into heaven. Is that 28, I think? Yeah, so in 28, Jacob sees, when he lays his head down, he sees this vision of the ladder of God. That's the spiritual ladder. It's verse 17-ish. I'm trying to go back between Septuagint and right here. And Masoretic text. Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely God is in this place." Now, wait a minute. How's God in this place if God is not in time and space? But no, he actually is interacting with the theophany of the Lord. You understand this argument refutes Roman Catholicism. All of Roman Catholicism can fall on this point. You understand that? Do you remember the Thomists that called in, arguing with me, and I kept going to Leviticus 9, the glory of the Lord appearing in time and space? And they all admit that the glory of God is not a creature. Uh-oh. Now what? They have to admit essence energy distinction in our position, or else they're going to be Muslims. Look, what does it say right here? Jacob awoke. Surely Yahweh is in this place. How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God and the gate of heaven. And let's go to 32, where he wrestles. I wonder who this is. I'm amazed these Roman Catholics. This is how biblically illiterate the Roman Catholics and the Thomists are. If they would get their head out of the dry, boring Aquinas stuff and put their face in the Bible, they might actually know some of this. Jacob said, "Tell me your name. Who are you, this angel that I've wrestled with? Why is it you ask about my name?" Where have we heard that before? Judges 13. What does the angel of the Lord say to Manoah? "Why do you ask my name, seeing as it is wonderful?" Why do you ask my name? Why do you ask my name? It is wonderful. Who does Isaiah identify as wonderful? Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. The one whose name is wonderful is not Michael or Gabriel. It's the Son of God. The Son of God. The Son of God that Job saw. I saw one like a Son of God. Tell me your name. It is wonderful. Jacob called this place Peniel. I have seen God face to face. Imagine seeing that, and going with the Jewish Muslim argument that the created being there was an angel. God doesn't share his glory with creatures unless we're talking about theosis. You don't get to be called Yahweh if you're a creature. And yet we're told that Yahweh turned his face to Gideon when the same angel of the Lord appears to Gideon. The same angel of the Lord. Now you've read all this, right? Who does Jesus identify himself as in John 1? Well, it's actually Nathaniel. Nathaniel says, "I saw you, and are you the king of Israel and the Son of God?" John 1:49. Jesus said, "Because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you now believe? You will see greater things than this. Most assuredly, I say to you, you shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Oh, what is that? That's exactly what Jacob saw when he had his vision of the Logos. Jacob identifies the angel of the Lord as the ladder of God upon whom the angels are ascending and descending. And the Roman Catholics can't figure out that this is Jesus. This is how pathetic and heterodox the papal cult is. It really is this bad. You wonder why I'm so vicious and vehement against the Roman Catholics. They're robbing you of your best argument against Muslims and Jews. These idiots. Genesis 28, 12 to 13. Jacob's ladder, where he sees the angels ascending and descending. When he sees the angel of the Lord, and Jesus tells you right there who it is. And the Roman Catholics say, "No, Jesus, that's not you." I know better because Thomas Aquinas, my cult leader, told me that that's not you. Now we can go through 20 other passages in Genesis. But if you want a longer exposition, I've already done every passage in the Torah, except for the one I missed, which I mentioned later on, of a theophany. Let me give you just one more because the Roman Catholics really struggle with Leviticus 9. Remember, God's glory is not a creature. We all admit this. So even if it's not the case, but even if we threw out all these examples of the angel of the Lord, what are any of these Roman Catholics going to do with this passage where it says Aaron lifted up his hands toward the people, blessed them, and came down from the offering of the sin offering and the burnt offering and the peace offerings? Aaron and Moses went into the tabernacle meeting and came out to bless the people. And then the glory of the Lord appeared to the people, and fire came out from before the Lord and consumed the burnt offering. And they all fell on their face. Now, wait a minute. Is the glory of God a creature? How is it appearing to all the people if God does not equate his glory to a created thing? Remember when I asked this to the Thomists that were calling in and they all lost their mind and just flipped out? Do you think this is the only theophany? There's multiple more in Deuteronomy, in Numbers, in Leviticus. So they just don't know what the Bible actually says. They're like Muslims and Jews because Jews follow the Talmud. And for the Thomists, Thomas is their Talmud. St. Talmud Aquinas. How's that? Talmud Aquinas. There you go. I'm sorry, Xander, I ranted. Go ahead.
Oh, Oh, okay, thank you. Is it loud still or
No, you're good.
the background? Oh, okay, that's good. Man, that was actually insane. I all my life, even Sam Shamoon, when I was watching him back in his Protestant days, like this was the argument that he was hammering down on
It's
us
like so
every
obvious
time.
when if you know the Old Testament really well,
Yeah,
it's just super obvious. It's not even. It's like
yeah, I'm
that's why
like,
Paul says that there's a veil over the mind of the Jews when they read the Old Testament because they can't see Christ everywhere in the Old Testament. And these,
Yeah, yeah, and,
the followers of Saint Talmud Aquinas have the same Jewish veil over their hearts.
yeah, and again, it's not only being robbed of argument. It's what's the point of the Old Testament then? You know, that's the entire point, that it was Christ all along. That's the entire depth of this text, which is huge. That's the entire point of it. That's also super important for us in terms of worship, in terms of spirituality, in terms of
Absolutely.
understanding the New Testament. It's a central part. It's before Abraham I am.
Well,
That's
and it's
important.
also part of the big deception, as Seneca's pointing out, which robs us not just of apologetic arguments, but actually robs us of the truth. And we fall into delusion because when Nostra Aetate 3 says that Muslims and Jews and Christians all worship the same God, it's premised on the assumption that the Old Testament is teaching a Unitarian God and not the Trinity, and that it's generic theism. So you see that Roman Catholics are just following their papal masters in Vatican II.
uh, the quick question, real quick, before I ask my last question. Is this also why Jimmy Akin came out saying that Isaiah 53 was also about Israel, the nation of Israel, and Jesus, and not just Jesus? Or is there something different going on there?
Well, I didn't know his position on that, but I did you know that
Oh,
he like Voice of Reason also rejects Ephesus?
oh wow.
Yeah, let me play the clip.
Is that after the Council of Ephesus, Nestorius accepted the church's judgment. He said, actually, no, I don't think Jesus is two persons. Let me clarify. And he did. He clarified his views. He didn't like calling Mary Mother of God, but he clarified that he didn't think Jesus was two persons. And he accepted the church's judgment, and he died in communion with the church. Arius died a faithful Catholic.
I think he meant Nestorius, but he actually says Nestorius, and then he says Arius died a faithful Catholic. So, I mean, this guy is a complete
Oof,
clown. I mean, but this is why
oof.
Voice of Reason says, did you know that the Council of Ephesus made an error when they condemned Nestorius because Nestorius was not a heretic? This is why they say this, because of this goofball.
Oh my gosh.
So they actually reject Ephesus, and they don't believe in infallible ecumenical councils because the councils now erred, and Nestorius was cool all along.
Oh wow. Oof. Thanks for clarifying that. So my last question is this I've been looking inside the communion of saints and stuff, and then I went when I went to the Antiochian church, I couldn't help but notice the saints on the ceilings
Mhm.
and on the walls and everywhere around us. Is there like a thematic is there a theme around that, or is this like
Well, the
the
the the
I hope,
the the dome and the ceiling of the church is supposed to give us the impression that heaven has come down to us, and we are in the presence of the heavenly liturgy, which is what John is doing and seeing in Revelation 5 through 9.
and I was
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I just wanted
So
to confirm that because I was feeling the same way.
So there are some common themes, icons are disposed in the churches. There are local variations and variations from parish to parish. Parishes will often put things that are more relevant or important for them. You tend to have female saints on the left, male saints on the right. The central door will have the four evangelists, because the idea is the door that opens towards the inner sanctum is the gospel. Above it, you usually have the Annunciation to show that this all starts with incarnation. Um, Oftentimes, there is the icon of the protection of the Mother of God. Above the outside door, so that's about going into the world, having the protection. There is also classification of saints in terms of or important they are. So usually you'll have apostles, martyrs, things like this, and of course, liturgically speaking, you really often have a deesis, meaning Christ on the right side, John the Forerunner, on the left side, the Theotokos. That's a classic one.
Yeah.
So there is a method to the madness.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And about the icons, one last thing before I'm gonna leave, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I have this argument that I was talking to my Protestant friend about this, about like the whole communion of saints and stuff like that, and like how I first started, I started like having prayers. I bought a prayer book from the church, and then I started praying. And he was asking me, well, why don't you just go directly to Jesus and stuff like that? And I didn't give out the common responses. I think I reached this conclusion by myself. I wanted to know what you thought of it. Is that Protestantism's way of viewing the saints? It makes God a pagan utilitarian God.
In what
What do
way?
you think about
In
that?
what way?
In one way, because like the way they view God, the way they view the saints is the God just uses them for here on earth, and then after that, He discards them, and like all the focus is on Him. Like He uses them for one person, one purpose, and one purpose alone, and then after that, he forgets about them.
Well, yeah, I mean,
When
I
in the
think you could
Bible,
maybe make a connection like that, but I mean, I think most Protestants would admit that, the quote saints are in heaven doing something, I don't know what, but the book of Revelation tells us that they're involved in the liturgical worship of heaven. So, I want to play this clip here to let you see that Voice of Reason has the exact same ridiculous error that Jimmy Aiken has. That are being used are spurious. The church isn't protected in matters of fact. The church is only protected, only infallible in matters of faith and morals. In the same way that when the Council of Ephesus condemned Nestorius as a heretic, we know now, looking back, that the council was actually incorrect. It turns out that Nestorius wasn't a Nestorian. First of all of that was assertions. The idea that there's no connection between the condemnation of a council and faith and morals. I think condemning one of the biggest heresiarchs in the history of the church relates to morals and faith. You think? But he tries to come up with this arbitrary standard that, that actually is not under infallibility. And so the entire Council of Ephesus and all the acts, he doesn't even understand how devastating this would be to the actual council. He's not even read the acts and the statements that Cyril wrote, the 12 anathemas of this would mean the anathemas are wrong too, dummy. And that would mean that Ephesus is wrong, not just in the condemnation of Nestorius, but in the canons and the anathemas that all condemn the multiple errors of Nestorius, including arguments about the Eucharist. So he doesn't even know how dumb this admission is. But it actually shows you that in the Roman Catholic position, it doesn't even matter what the councils teach. Literally. In fact, they're now saying, we don't even care if you were condemned as a heretic for centuries. Palamas, Mark of Ephesus, you know, all these guys, Photius, they're all saints now. You're all good now. It's all cool. Even though Cantate Domino says that if you die even as a martyr outside the Roman Catholic communion, you're damned. No, it's all good now. It's cool.